Hello and welcome to another Android Deep Dive session. In this session we're going to be going into quite a few of the details of implementing styles and themes in your applications so that they look a lot more uniform and professional when you deploy them. So what we're going to cover in this deep dive is just a contrast between what a style is and what a theme is, and we're going to transition to understanding inheritance when you're doing your styling, and then we're going to wrap up by understanding how we can use different API levels to get cooler looking layouts on more advanced devices when they're available. So let's just get started then. Understanding the difference between styles and themes is critical to this entire lesson, so I'm going to spend a bit of time on it. But first, the definition of a style. It's, according to the developer SDK, a collection of properties that specify the look and format for a view or window. So styles are something you want to use when you want a particular set of attributes to be set up in a certain way on a view, and you want to also repeat those attributes in different places throughout your application, but you don't want to code the same attribute values over and over again. So for example, if you want your text to be a shade of green on your login screen, you would implement a style that would do that, and then you could have that same shade of green cascade through your application if you'd like. Now, styles and themes are very closely intertwined because they're essentially the same thing, but let me describe why they're named differently. So when you're using a style, you can style specific views or widgets in the window, as we mentioned earlier. So as you can see in this illustration here, the first text item is styled using our custom blue sans font here. It also makes it a little bigger and centers it on the screen. But there's all these other text items on the screen that we want to customize to make it look like it aligns with the theme of the application. So in order to do that, we do use themes. We apply the theme to that entire activity. Sorry, we apply the style to the entire activity or the application itself, and all the style attributes that we've defined in that style will cascade to all the views and all the subviews of that activity that you've chosen. From the developer SDK, a theme is a style applied to an entire activity or application rather than an individual view. So if you want to take a style that you've defined and just apply it to an entire activity or application, you do that using themes. Now, when would you want to do this? You typically want to use themes with much more generic attributes, such as the background of the window. You'd want that to be the same between activities, or the spacing between the views and the padding of the views. That's something that's a little more generic than text color, so you'd want that to be a theme as opposed to a style. So in summary, a style is a set of attributes which define the look and feel of a view, but when you apply that style to an entire activity or application, it just becomes a theme for that application. So now, let's jump into Eclipse and start working with styles and themes so we can get a more tangible understanding of what they actually do. So here in Eclipse, I've went ahead and created a simple XML layout for the sake of time. And I have a text view followed by an image view, and then at the bottom we have another text view and a button. As you can see, here they are. You just can't see the text views because they're the same color as the background right now. But we're going to change that. We want to make this look more aesthetically pleasing using styles. Of course, we could modify the attributes directly and change the text color to be lighter, but we want to learn styles here, so we're going to do it that way first. So let's start by modifying this text view that's just above the button down here. Let's make it more visible and a little more user-friendly. So to make a new style, we go into the values folder inside the resources folder here, and we're going to make a new resources root element XML. I'm going to call it styles. The name actually doesn't have to be styles, but I just want to make it very obvious that we're making a new style. We're going to come down to the inside the resources node here, and we want to make a new style, and we're going to name this one my text style because we're styling the text. And then we want a new item in here, we want to modify the layout width. So let's see, we have Android layout width, and we want that to be match parent. And then we're going to do the same for layout height, but we're going to change this to wrap content. Oops. Unfortunate thing is you don't get much auto-completion in here from Eclipse, but it's fine. You just have to know the names of the values you're putting into these attributes. We also want to ensure that the gravity, there we go, of the view is going to be centered, because we want it to look nice and neat, centered horizontally. And then of course we want to specify the text size. So there we go, text size. We're going to say 20 SP. And then we want to modify the text color as well. And to do this, we're gonna go to one of the Android resources. So at Android color, and we just want to make it white. And finally, we want to modify the font name. And we're gonna go and change it to, oh well, the font name is the typeface. We just want a simple serif font. So now that we've made the style, we need to go ahead and apply it to the views that we're interested in displaying in that way. So we do want to apply it to the text view just above the button. So we'll say style, at style, and we have my text style right there. Keep in mind we don't use the Android colon at the start here because we're not actually referencing something that's in the Android package. We made this style ourselves. And then we're going to also apply this style to the text view at the top here. So now when we look at our graphical layout, you'll see we can see the text and it looks a lot more neat. But it's still not centered horizontally like we specified in the styles XML. That's because we've overridden some of those values by specifying new layout widths and height in the actual view here. So let's go ahead and delete these now so that we can have the view centered horizontally. And when we look into the graphical layout again, we'll see that we have a nice centered text view. But what if we want to make our title text up here much larger than the subtext below? We would usually want to do something like that if we were introducing our users to our app and we wanted them to see that first. Welcome to our application in big text. We're going to have to subclass our theme in some way and modify just the text size. And in order to do that, we first have to understand how inheritance works in styling. So there's really two ways we can go about inheritance with styling. The first one being inheriting from a style in the Android package itself, such as theme.light displayed here. And why would we use inheritance? Let's say we want all of the attributes of theme.light, but we just want to change the text color. We'll specify that the theme.light is the parent style, and that in this new style that we're going to create, this text color box, we're going to only change the text color. Additionally, we can make another style in which we only change the typeface to sans, so that all the text displayed on the theme for the application, or that style particularly, will have the sans font. And we can just continue subclassing as far as we want. So if we want to have a separate style that would have the sans font and be part of the light theme embedded in the Android package, but would have a larger text size, we can specify that by making it a parent of one of the sans typeface style that we made. Now, that being said, it becomes apparent that we can also subclass our own styles. So if we have our own style or theme, we can subclass it into another one of our own styles and change one of the attributes as needed. Of course, we can, again, do another subclass and change a different attribute. We can also change multiple attributes in one subclass, but the point of this is that we can organize our styles in such a manner, such a logical manner, so that we can have broader styles such as themes, but tweak them slightly here and there to make it look more custom. Now, the way that we inherit from an Android package is different from the way we inherit from a style that we've made ourselves, and I'm going to demonstrate that now. Back in Eclipse, we're going to go ahead and subclass the style that we made to make a style that's more appropriate for the title of our application. So right now we're working with the My Text style. So we'll jump into the styles here. We want to make a new style, and we're going to name this My Text Style dot title. And that's all we have to do to subclass styles that we make. We have to do it a little differently when it's a style that's within the Android package, but this is all we have to do if we made the parent style, which is, in this example, My Text Style. So the item that we're going to modify here, the only one, is going to be the text size. There we go. We want to change that to 35 SP. We want to make it bigger. And then we're going to come into our main.xml, and we're going to change the style of My Text Style to mytextstyle.title, and then you'll see in the graphical layout that all of the attributes of the parent style, My Text Style, are still there. The text is still white, it's still centered, but we've increased the font size dramatically to be the font size more appropriate for a title of a page here. But the view that's using the parent style hasn't been changed. So that's a very convenient use case of subclassing styles. However, as I mentioned before, there is another way we can subclass styles that we only use when we're inheriting from a parent style which is part of the Android attributes package. So in order to illustrate how that works, let's go ahead and make another style. We will name this one My App Style. And then we have to specify here that the parent is at Android style theme, and we will use light no title bar in this example. So we've told XML that we want to inherit all the attributes from the parent style, which is theme light no title bar. And don't be confused by the word theme here, because keep in mind styles and themes are the same thing. It's just a different naming convention when it's being applied to an entire activity or application. So now that we've inherited from an Android parent style, we have to populate the body of this style. And let's do that by making a theme that we're going to apply to the entire activity. Now, as I mentioned previously, we only want to include attributes in a style element that's intended to be a theme if we want them to be applied to every single view in an activity or the application, whichever one we're going with here. And in this example, we actually want all of these attributes to be applied across the board to every single view in our activity, simply because we want everything to be centered, we want everything to have the same text size, and we're going to only modify the text size using this text title tag. So we're actually not going to need the My Text Style anymore. So we'll go into main here, and we're going to keep the title, but we do not want to use text style anymore because it's not there. And we also want to remove the layout width and height attributes on all the other views in our application. And then we want to go ahead and apply the style to this activity. Now we do that in the Android manifest. Much like whenever you're making any major change to an activity, it goes in the manifest. So here we have the main activity, which is this one here, and we need to clarify that we're going to specify the theme that we just created as the theme for that activity. So we'll type Android theme, and we want to say @style, and we have my app style here, which is the one we want to go with. And of course, since my text style no longer exists, we're going to change this to my app style using the refactoring tool in Eclipse. Let's just change that to my app style, and that will update all the references throughout the application. And now when we come back into main.xml and see the graphical layout, there's going to be a few errors because we haven't changed the layout that the XML editor here is displaying to the one that we just modified in the manifest. So we'll change it to my app style and everything will update correctly. So now we have everything centered, everything looks a lot better, but there's still a few things we could do to tweak it. Let's add some padding around every element. And then let's move this gray background of the window itself into the theme so that if we want to apply that to other activities in our application, it's already done for us. So first we'll jump into styles here. We want to add a new item, Android padding. And we're going to set this value to 10 dp. And now let's move the window background into this style as well so that that also carries through on all our activities here. Now we can't actually add the hex value of the color directly, we have to make a new color resource. So we'll do that now. We'll name it background color. And the value that we want is in main.xml, we want the 30 30 30 value. Let's delete this line while we're in there. So we do want that value, and then we will add it to the style, Android, window, background, and we want to refer to color at color, background color. Great. And then when we go back into the graphical layout of main.xml, we'll see we still have our nice background color. So we have a pretty nice looking application now, and thanks to the power of themes and styles, it's going to look the same in every single activity of that application. But what if we wanted to make it look really nice on devices that have the ability to show more advanced looking widgets? And we can actually vary which style files we use based on the API level of the device running the application, and I want to demonstrate that now. So let's go ahead and write a style file that's going to upgrade the look and feel of our application if we're running on a device which is running API level 14 or greater. So in order to do that, we come to the resources file here, or the resources folder. We create a new folder called values-v14, the 14 standing for API 14, which is the minimum API level for which these values will be selected. It's important that it is phrased like this. It should say values-v and then the API level. That's mandatory. Then we're going to make a new XML file. It doesn't have to be called styles once again. But what has to be the same is we have to use the same name as the style element in our previous style file. But now we can make changes to this version of the style file, and those changes will only be reflected if the device is running API 14 or greater. So for our example, let's change the parent theme to theme.holo.light.noActionBar. There we go. And then if we jump right back into main, we'll see that when we're on API 11, we have the white button on the bottom here, which is just the theme.light. But then when we jump to API 14, the button becomes gray, and it's kind of hard to notice, but this is actually the holo theme. So we're changing the attributes of the entire activity, the entire theme of that activity, only if we're running on devices that can support those resources. So styling in Android really doesn't get much more complicated than this, and if you take the time to understand everything we've been through so far, the differences between themes and styles, the ability to inherit from parent styles in the Android package and styles you make yourself, and understanding how to vary your styles based on the API level of the device, then you're going to have a really easy time making your apps look nice and neat and uniform across the various activities contained in your application. And once again, thank you for watching, folks. If you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments below. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy some of the other videos in this series, which you can find by clicking the annotations on the left side of the screen. But I hope you have a wonderful day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.